But first, millions of Thames Water customers face a hosepipe ban because of the hot, dry weather that we've been having. It'll come into force from Thursday and means hosepipes should not be used for watering gardens, washing cars or cleaning windows. It comes as the Met Office and other expert organisations warned the south of the country is moving towards drought conditions. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
It's the news gardeners were dreading. Britain's biggest water company, Thames, is banning hosepipes. Customers were still buying plants at this nursery in Bounds Green, but most were aware it's watering cans only for the foreseeable future.
It will have a big effect on the garden. It's all going to dry out, really, which is a shame because we've been working quite hard on making it look good.
If we mulch, and we've been watering deeply throughout the year, we should be able to survive with the watering can.
It's difficult because you've spent all the money with gorgeous plants and then they'll die.
What I do is I shower over a bucket. I'm originally Australian and that's what Australians do. I shower over a bucket and then the next morning I water the plants with a bucket.
3 heat waves already this summer have created near drought conditions in southern England. On the plus side, there's been glorious sunshine. But it's led to wildfires like this one, which destroyed a house in Walthamstow. And now there are fears that without a hosepipe ban, the taps could run dry. The demand for water in London and the Thames Valley has gone up by 100 million litres a day during the heatwave. Thames Water isn't saying when the temporary ban will end, but has promised to lift restrictions as soon as it's safe to do so. But at the moment, there's no sign of significant rain. So Thames Water customers are now in the same boat as people supplied by Affinity and South East Water in Surrey, Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Hertfordshire and Essex.
Basically, customers shouldn't use hose pipes, including for cleaning cars, the watering gardens or their allotments, filling paddling pools, swimming pools and cleaning windows.
Many garden centres guessed a ban was on its way.
We've been building up to it, advising customers steps to take, plants to plant, drought-tolerant, resistant plants. There's a lot of irrigation systems gone in the last couple of weeks building up to this.
The Thames Water hosepipe ban will begin at 1 minute past midnight on Thursday morning. Simon Harris, ITV News, Bounds Green.
Good evening. Tubes, buses, trains, cars. We all know there are so many ways of getting around the capital, but today saw London move one step closer to the first mode of public transport, which would be in our skies. Virgin Atlantic and aviation company Joby finalised a deal today, which would see Joby's air taxi service brought to the UK. They're not the only companies vying for a piece of London's transport skyline, though, and with the business secretary announcing a £600 million investment in British aerospace, it's thought air taxis could be part of our everyday life by the end of the decade. From Farnborough Ayrshire, here's our correspondent, Simon Harris.
Could this be a 21st century take on the iconic black cab? Or perhaps this? Both are electric flying taxis competing to be the first in London. At the Farnborough Air Show, the airline Virgin Atlantic signed a deal to bring to the capital a revolutionary plane made by an American company called Joby Aviation.
We're going to be launching in the UAE later this year, in the US next year, and then the UK would be after that.
The Joby Air Taxi has been undergoing flight trials in the United States and recently flew in and around New York City. It can take off and land vertically, and because its propellers are powered by batteries, there are no emissions, making it far quieter than a conventional helicopter. Virgin thinks there's a market for journeys between central London and Heathrow Airport. Who's going to be able to afford to fly in these?
Look, this is going to be the pricing of roughly, say, an Uber exec, so the slightly more fancy Uber. That's where the pricing is roughly going to be. So we will hope that this will be available to many people in the future and will become a really accepted mode of transportation.
This is the British rival to the American plane. It's called the Velo and made by a company from Bristol called Vertical Aerospace. The prototype is the first of its kind to be allowed to fly at a British air show. The company's chief executive is a Londoner and convinced his plane will be in demand.
I live in southwest London. I had to get to northwest London. It took me 2 hours and 15 minutes to go about 15 miles. This would have done it in about 9 minutes. So this transforms urban transportation, urban mobility for people.
Instead of airports and heliports, the air taxis can take off and land from the top of multi-storey car parks. So what are the chances of being able to hail an air taxi in London anytime soon? Because no one has ever done this before, there are still some big hurdles for the plane makers and the airlines to overcome. The government and the Civil Aviation Authority need to be convinced electric air taxis are safe, but appear to be supportive.
Cutting our emissions as an aviation industry, both for noise, visually and pollution, hugely important if the industry is to continue to grow. So having devices like this that change that game is really important.
Flying taxis might once have seemed like science fiction, but they're on their way, and in Britain, London will be the first stop.
All right, well, let's join Simon now, who's at Farnborough Air Show for us this evening. Simon, how soon can we expect to see this in London?
Well, Lucrezia, the American company Joby is hoping that the American authorities will certify its plane to carry passengers later this year, with the intention of returning to the next Farnborough Air Show in 2028, when it will ferry people from central London to the air show. The British company is relying on the CAA, the Civil Aviation Authority, to certify its plane. It's looking at 2029, so in both cases before the end of the decade. Now, no plane will be allowed to fly, we're told, unless it's absolutely safe. But it's clear the government and the CAA are rather enthusiastic about this idea. The government particularly has invested more than £40 million in the concept of flying taxis. It likes them because they're green, because they're powered by batteries, and it also thinks they'll support economic growth.
All right, Simon at Farnborough Air Show, thank you. Now, at the stroke of midnight, a hosepipe ban came into force for millions of Thames Water customers across England and the South East. The water company is blaming 3 successive heat waves as the root cause of the ban. Thames Water has, of course, been under extreme financial strain for a number of years, with an estimated £19 billion in debt. Critics say the restrictions shine a spotlight on years of underinvestment. Here's our correspondent, Simon Harris.
When Linda and Jenny volunteered to keep their local riverside path looking nice, they had no idea it would come to this. Instead of running out a hosepipe, they're forced to load watering cans onto a wheelbarrow. But the stretch of Queen's Promenade in Surbiton they look after is a kilometre long.
As from last night, we're going to have to be using the watering cans, which is a huge task because there's a lot of plants, and we've tried to create our beds to be as drought tolerant as possible, but obviously plants still need water whether they're drought tolerant or not.
Thames Water said this summer's heat waves had increased demand for water in London and the home counties by 100 million litres a day. That cuts no ice with the company's critics.
I think this is just yet another example of how Thames Water are letting their customers down. We have so many problems with Thames Water, you know, the leaks, the bills, so many things, and now they can't even manage our water properly to save people from this hosepipe ban.
A spokesperson for the company said Thames Water is currently delivering the biggest upgrade to its network in 150 years, with a record £2.7 billion spent in 2025-26, the equivalent of more than £7 million a day.
Despite the hosepipe ban and the lack of rain, it's still not as bad as the famous drought of 1976. That was so extreme, the government had to appoint a drought minister to manage the crisis.
50 years ago, trees across London were dying of thirst, but that drought followed an unusually dry winter. In Richmond Park today, the trees are still looking green and healthy. The same can't be said for the grass. 3 heat waves have left it baked and parched. Yellow lawns have become a common sight across the capital. On the riverbank, they're braced for a long hot summer of watering by hand. Simon Harris, ITV News, Surbiton.